Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. Before we start this video, I just want to say that I'm sick today and I apologize in advance for this maybe being a little bit of a congested video in terms of audio, but either way, I just want to say a big thank you to everyone for showing support to the channel and sharing the channel around. I think it's some rather good spread of knowledge for the community, and hopefully we can keep making fantastic content just like this one every single day for you guys whenever I can. To start off though, let's get into the video. We have a Warframe review, and not just any Warframe, but the poster boy himself, Mr. Gauss. He has become a meme, but he has transcended the Warframe community and has very much so brought Warframe to the light of many individuals all throughout gaming. So I think that's a really cool thing, and I'm really excited to show you the build. Let's get straight into it. We'll start off with his abilities. So, Mr. Gauss Prime has a passive that says when you move, you generate an electrical current that fills Gauss's battery gauge, which is basically just a little passive gauge that he has sitting on the right-hand side of the screen that will fill up the more you move and give you bonuses based on how full it is. Usually, it doesn't really fill up all that much because of the fact that even though you are moving around a lot in this game, you are still going to be getting shot at, and kinetic plating drains it. We'll talk about that in a bit. Regardless, that is the buff from moving, but in addition to the buffs that you get from his abilities, you also get this passive buff of faster shield recharge and faster recharge delay, meaning that you're going to get your shields back quicker and just in general be a lot more tanky to deal with in that regard as well. We then have Mark Rush, which is the funny meme ability where you run real fast, you do the funny meme, and you poke someone and they explode into thousands of bits when you boop their snoot. Now, this ability doesn't really require any additional love, so it's just good as is and will fly across the planet doing relatively good damage, as well as just in general relatively decent mobility speed. The only problem with this ability is that you get caught on things, so keep that in mind. If you hit something, you reset, so it's better on open worlds, it's better on tile sets that aren't like the Void mod where you have pillars raising up in front of you and nonsense like that. Moving on, we have kinetic plating. Now this is the one that I was talking about before, which basically just is a really fun little ability where you generate armor that converts a portion of the damage that you absorb through physical heat, cold, and blast into energy, meaning you have essentially infinite energy. And it also protects Gauss from being knocked down and staggered, which is really nice. The only thing that you have to understand with this ability is it doesn't cover toxic damage, which is somewhat common in infested missions, and that is something to keep in mind. Then we have a damage resistance as well, given to you relative to your battery level. Now, unfortunately, again, you're probably not going to get a super high battery level when you consider, unfortunately, just how this build fundamentally functions and the fact that this build does drain your battery, like this actual ability drains your battery when you get shot at, which is something that it doesn't mention here, but it does do that, so there is that to keep in mind. Then we have Thermal Sunder, which is another ability drain, but also an ability accumulation of sorts. Basically, you tap it once, you get a cold status on nearby enemies. Any damage that they deal is then converted into battery charge. If you hold it down, you inflict heat damage, and you can get some degree of nuke with this, but it does drain your battery. If you want this to be something that you are going to maybe nuke with, you can do a nuke build, and I do have a nuke build. I won't go into it very much in this video just because I personally don't like it, but it is very doable and has quite a few ways of doing it where it does work out quite nicely, where you just spam Thermal Sunder, get a lot of damage on things, heat inherent, all that sort of stuff. It's really viable. I just am not a fan of it because it isn't very comfortable. Last but not least, we have Redline, the last ability. This is the fourth ability that gives you a massive amount of synergy with your actual battery buff. This basically says that while you're running around, you can push your battery above the red line, gain additional bonuses based on how charged you are, starting at a very commendable 30% cast time, 30% reload speed, 24% attack speed, and 46% fire rate. And this just increases the more you move. This pairs insanely well with specifically any melee weapons, because melee weapons that make you move just keep that momentum going, whereas guns will tend to slow you down a fair bit, unless you have something like the Torrid, or maybe like the Prismagorgon, which we will look at in a bit, where you can do some pretty disgusting damage while moving around relatively easily. We will go straight onto the build now and take a look at the build itself. So we've got this as the build that I am using. Now this is a pretty fun little build. I really like it, and it does quite a fair amount of work. Now, there is a few things to mention here quickly before we really get into it. Number one, sprint boost and rush are not necessary for this build. They don't do anything for you. If you don't want to have them, you don't have to have them. The only reason why I run them is just for the sake of I like to move fast in my games, and it also works well with Mark Rush. The other thing as well is corrosive projection could easily be replaced here, and that would work perfectly fine too. This is the standard polarization of this ability, so by all means do so. Moving on to the abilities though, or rather the ability stats, we see a crap load of duration on this build. Specifically, we've got Primed Continuity, Narrow-Minded, Augur Message, and Constitution, all for duration. And that's because all of his abilities scale really, really well with duration. You want to put a lot of duration onto this Prime frame because of the fact that you're going to be scaling so much better with it. Now, I am missing two things that could get me additional duration on this build. Number one is Naira's Hatred, and number two is Mult Efficiency. Now, I will admit both of them are perfectly fine here. I am not someone that likes to play the game without comfort as a main priority when I'm playing the game. And so I did not opt for that and instead opted to add some survivability, as they're really not necessary additions. And the way I added those was with Fast Deflection, Vigilante Vigor, and Arcane Aegis. So I replaced specifically Naira's Hatred with Fast Deflection. I replaced Mult Efficiency with Arcane Aegis. And I added in Vigilante Vigor instead of boosting my ability Strength. The ability Strength in this build doesn't really do anything, so I went with more survivability, more comfort, for that exact reason. The other thing that I swapped out that a lot of people run is Energy Nexus or Primed Flow. A lot of people run Primed Flow or Energy Nexus here, but I wanted to run Equilibrium. Because of the fact that you are going to be killing a lot of things and probably still taking a pretty decent amount of damage, and Leech Eximuses and toxic weapons do exist, as well as like gas clouds and that sort of thing, you can take damage through your shields, and thus Equilibrium just really helps keep you alive. It also helps with your energy economy still, so you're not losing too much with Primed Flow or anything like that either. So I think swapping Primed Flow and Energy Nexus out for Equilibrium is perfectly serviceable here. However, if you prefer Primed Flow and Arcane Energize as a combo, or you prefer Equilibrium or potentially Energy Nexus in this slot, whatever it is, you can put it here. They will all serve the same purpose. Again, I build for comfort. As another survivability, we have Adaptation. I think pretty much no matter what build you're running, whether it be my comfort build or one of the more normal, typical builds that you see where they're min-maxing all the damage in the world, Adaptation is a must. It just keeps you alive. It's really, really handy for that exact reason. And last but not least, we've got Arcane Energize on here. Now, this is, again, something that you could easily replace, and you could replace it with quite literally anything. Mult Augmented, if you want to try and boost some of that ability strength. Mult Efficiency, again, if you want even more duration instead. You could put a buff for your weapon as well, like Arcane Velocity in here as well, if you really wanted to, or Arcane Rage. It's really up to you, and it's really up to your personal preference on arcanes. I personally just go with Arcane Energize because, again, I like comfort. Comfort is the most important thing for me. Alright, moving on though, we do have one more build that I wanted to show you, and this is one that is more typical of a nuke build. I'm not going to go into too much detail about it, but here it is. This is a nuke build through and through. You've still got a degree of duration on here, not as much as you would expect. You've only got primed continuity on here, and that's it for duration, but you're instead getting a bunch of range with overextended and stretch. Overextended and stretch are really, really nice here because they, again, provide that extra bit of range for your nuke to hit a bunch of people. We're still rolling with Equilibrium, but we do have Rolling Guard instead of Adaptation. Equilibrium is going to help us survive. Rolling Guard is going to help us stay alive as well. But the benefit is that Primed Flow, Arcane Energize, and Equilibrium are all on here to give you a crap load of energy to spam your third ability, because this is the Thermal Sunder nuke build. You want to be spamming that third ability. You've also got Archon Vitality to double up the heat procs from Thermal Sunder as well, which is really important. And then you've got some extra ability strength for Umbral Intensify and Mult Augmented, just to get a little bit of extra initial burst damage on that third ability. This is something that you have to keep in mind when building this frame. You are able to be versatile. You do not need to be giga buffing your weapons for Steel Path. You can simply just run something like this and do perfectly fine playing the game this way. This is great for the star chart and a bunch of other areas of the game. I personally don't mind it, but this is the build that I prefer. Let's go on to our mod review real quick and show you what this build can do. Now, I do have skill issue, and I'm sick, so I'm going to leave that as a major reason as to why I may die here, and I apologize, but this is hopefully not going to be that bad. So, forgive me, but this is the best that I can do. As you can see, you just dump bullets egregiously. We've got our we've got our abilities up now, and it's just absurd. You just want to stay on the move whenever you're using this ability. And as you can see, the egregious amount of damage we're getting up this weapon, just with these buffs alone, is honestly insane. We'll quickly switch to the... There you go. As you can see, egregious amounts of damage. And we're still surviving quite nicely, at least, you know. That's the other thing as well that you gotta remember. We're still surviving with this build, but we're still getting ridiculous speed bonuses. Just make sure that you're moving around always, so that way you're always building up this. One of the reasons why I think the Turreting Cannon works so well on Gauss, and anything like the Burst On or any beam weapons are going to work fantastically too. But anything that can spray and pray like the Prisma Gorgon are also going to be super good for this exact reason. And then you also have the melee options, and the melee options are going to be equally as viable. And this is shown, I've just got the dual Vicus on this one. We've already made a video on the dual Vicus and how ridiculous they are. But as you can see, this also works fantastic with Gauss and just does an absurd amount We put the buff back on, thermal sunder back on as well. And then all of a sudden our attack speed just goes through the roof. We're staying on the move too, which is really, really important. And I think as a whole, Gauss is just a fantastic melee frame. And one of those frames that I think is incredibly underrated as a melee frame. We've got someone joining in, that's fine. We don't need to worry too much about that. Like you see here, it is just egregious. We're already at 83% battery charge. And this is just with our absurd amount of melee attack speed. We've got 100% now. And this is, again, just perfect. We can cast all of our abilities in 0.5 seconds. And it's not a big deal. We can get anywhere on the map super easily. I absolutely love pairing him with any of these really fun weapons like this as well. Another great one is the Warframe Slam build, but the Dual Vicus also works phenomenally here. And just does so good. And then if you want to see, we can then compare this with the ridiculousness of the Prismic Organ paired up with this as well, which is just insane to think about. Only downside, and I think one of the things that I would love to see with this guy, is I would love to get him an augment where we don't have to worry about necessarily stacking our battery, and we can instead get our major amount of buff by reapplying and resetting our battery life. I think that'd be nice. I don't like that once Redline runs out, you do lose your battery. That's something to consider as well. But with this build, you are essentially immortal, and you just fly around. You've got so much damage reduction. You have so much shield recharge that you could probably stand still and take just a crap load of damage and you'd be fine. I'm not gonna lie. I am more than confident to say that you don't even need to be moving to stay alive with this build. You could stay directly still. And that shield recharge rate is just absurd. So if you want the comfort of having plenty of recharge, if you want the comfort of having plenty of buff on your weapons, by all means, get a good melee weapon, grab yourself Gauss, and just run around doing your thing. It is a great time. Again, apologies for being sick, and I hope that you all still enjoy the video. A big thank you to everyone for watching this far through the video. If you haven't already, please do leave a like and subscribe, and then let me know your thoughts about Gauss. And tell me, do you like the nuke build more? Do you like this kind of a build more? Do you want to see more content like this? Do you want to see more stuff like the Stardew Valley series that I've got going? Because I do have Stardew Valley going on the channel, as well as I did a Dishonored series recently, which is all finished now. And that's been a fantastic fun time as well. So if you haven't checked out all that content, please do. And it really means the world to me. We're going to leave it there. I'm going to get out of this mission. I'll leave it to future me to do the actual outro. Stay safe, and I'll see you next time. Bye! Hey everyone, thank you so much for watching this video. I hope that you all enjoyed the content. If you want to see more Warframe builds and other fun content, go check out the YouTube channel, watch another video, and help support me in any way you can. I really do appreciate it. Stay safe, and I'll see you next time. Bye!